The goal of cancel culture is to make decent Americans live in fear of being fired, expelled, shamed, humiliated, and driven from society as we know it. And we've ended weaponized government.
There's free speech, and then there's hate speech. We will absolutely target you, go after you, if you are targeting anyone with hate speech.
Many conservatives criticizing those comments yesterday.
Attorney General is as clueless as she's ever been.
She does not share your value. She is not a conservative.
Charlie Kirk was shot at 12:23 local time on September 10th.
Fighting fascism is a full-time job!
Greetings and felicitations. We're going to try something new here today on what was formerly the Best of Trek, Worst of Trek channel. Some may have noticed that I've changed the name fully to my name. Welcome to the channel, Dustin Wing. And I've changed it because it's not that I won't be doing Trek content anymore. That will still be the primary thing here. But I want to branch out into more things. And today, I've been planning this for quite a while, but today was the day. I'm sick of pretending everything is normal here in the US after everything that's happened. And my breaking point is a guy I don't actually care about on a personal level. Jimmy Kimmel fired today at the behest of the Trump administration, who used the FCC to pressure Disney and ABC, the owning companies, to fire him. And for me, that's the last straw. You know, some people will be like, oh, but like cancel culture's been around for a while and the left's been doing it. Okay, but we're talking about like private citizens that either compel a company or a brand or a person to stop doing what they're doing because of hate speech. What happened here is the US government coming in and completely ignoring the First Amendment to do what we saw get done. Now, there's been some speculation for over a month now that the same thing had happened to Stephen Colbert. And when that happened, I wasn't 100% that was because of Donald Trump and the administration and things like that. I was like, yeah, you know, ratings slipping. Not many people are watching late night. Well, but on this one, there's a paper trail with Kimmel, and it does feel like, you know, absolutely, maybe Stephen Colbert got cut for the same reason. Hey, Tasha. Hey, Clarence. Hey, Marge. How you guys doing? I'm glad to have you here. Thanks for tuning in to the inaugural run of a podcast. I don't have a name for this thing. I don't know if it's going to be regular. I just felt like after today, where I should have been writing my next script, which actually involves this guy over here, Jean-Luc Picard, and I only got the outline done. And then I'm like, I can't sit and write an entire thing today. So what I did was put together an outline for this, some questions, tried to get some people involved. Robbie from Our Usual Buffer Time, he should be showing up here in just a little bit. So I guess right off, yeah, let's get into the whole Jimmy Kimmel thing. Late night star, not my favorite. I kind of liked him on the Man Show years ago until he got into a bit of a pickle there. And, you know, I've seen some clips from his show. It's okay sometimes. But man, the way they came after him, it's just, it's so un-American. And the fact that if it can happen to a comedian, it can happen to any of us. It's scary. So I guess my first point here is, how will this affect mainstream news in the future? And I can't even begin to perceive all of the knock-on effects that this is going to have. I mean, certainly they're going to be, it's going to be harder to question Donald Trump or make light of any of the stupid things that he does. And that's too bad, because that's all Jimmy ever did. He never incited anybody to do anything. When it comes to all the Charlie Kirk stuff, which I've got a whole segment we'll get to here in a while, he never really said anything bad, just the truth about the ban. So when it comes to the future of news, I'm really worried. Now, thankfully, at least for now, we have platforms like this, and a lot of other people get their news from, places like this and talking heads, and there's a lot of us now. And that's great, but two problems. Where do most of us get our talking points from? There's still got to be a mainstream media to distribute trustworthy news. We can't just all have our own opinion on something and the biggest opinion wins the day. That cannot be how things go going forward. It can't just be the blind leading the blind and one podcaster says one thing, and then as long as they're the first one to say a thing, everybody follows. So yeah. Hey, Win Grace, how's it going? Is he? I'm not sure the answer to that question. Yes. And I had even seen a clip from uh, Pete Buttigieg from the election in 2024, where he was talking with somebody about how Donald Trump, this was in the playbook to cite and threaten FCC licenses from companies until he gets his way. So this isn't new. It should have been known. And unfortunately, this is where we are. And I'm not sure I'm comfortable with this. This is, I lived through 9/11 and the housing crash and COVID, and like, man, millennials have had so many once in a generation mishaps that have happened, and now we come to this where I'm like, wow, just fascism has won the day. And I hit my breaking point today where I could not stay silent and just keep doing Star Trek content, la 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 la. I felt like I absolutely have to say something. And yeah, I talked a little bit about was Colbert's firing politically motivated? That one's debatable, but now that it's happened to Jimmy and Jimmy, and also Jimmy Fallon, it looks like is going to come next, and Seth Meyers. Yeah, I don't think there's any question that Colbert's firing at this point may have been politically motivated. Will this affect non-news content? Will Star Trek start doing episodes on how good it is to support fascism regimes, actually? Yeah, I think there might be some of that. I think we might see, TV shows take their narrative and tangents in a different direction than we normally have. And that's really sketchy and unfortunate. I mean, we don't know. We won't know for a year or so because stuff getting produced now, we're not going to see for a year or so. But I think that's a very real problem that we may come to in the not too distant future. Who's next? Probably Fallon. I think Fallon comes first. Because at least Seth every once in a while is like kind of a good kind of critical, and NBC is probably the one that's going to be last to completely capitulate. But we'll see. Yeah, I know. I don't believe that we're going to have another free election. But that's so far away. Even just the midterms are more than a year away. So it feels so disconnected from the moment. I am not thinking about the midterms. I am not thinking about the next presidential election. I'm thinking about how we all get through the winter at this point. And I don't have an answer to that because things just keep piling on and getting weirder. And I don't know where it goes from here. Yeah, he definitely did, Tasha. Yeah, we all have the right to free speech, even Charlie Kirk, and that's a whole thing I'm going to get to here in a little bit. Um, and the real problem with free speech is, how do you police it? That's always been the biggest thing like, when the ACLU even uh, stood up for Nazis back in the 60s because they had their rights, even if it was terrible stuff to say. Um, yeah, and now we want to silence just like kind of normal speech, but the fascist stuff, that's okay. That's fine. I would love to think about the elections, but honestly, I think we need to get through the winter before we worry about elections. Um, we'll definitely be doing some voting, and I will definitely be calling out for some people to be voted for. But at this point, we need to survive the next year. Elections are detached from what our reality of what we're dealing with in the moment. I'm not saying that elections aren't important. We definitely need to be looking ahead to who we're going to get in there, but that's the other problem. Somebody please tell me a Democrat that can get in there, or a series of Democrats that can push back against Trump in a meaningful way, because Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi need to go. They have not been effective at really anything for years, and especially now that they're the minority heads of something. So, um, yeah, yeah, we just need to survive day to day. And then we can worry about elections in, 6 to 8 months, start figuring out who we really want to vote for. Um, so the next big talking point I have here is how this will affect Disney going forward. Because what I see, and we've heard some rumblings today about, is that the Actors Guild and maybe the Screenwriters Guild will either strike or just forbid people from working on productions for certain production companies. And for a company like Disney that wanted to own everything, now that you own everything, you also have the problem that if all the actors go on strike against you, you're not going to be making anything. So I hope that there is enough traction in the Screen Actors community to be able to push back on some of this. I don't know that Jimmy's getting his job back, but we may be able to prevent future people from losing their jobs just for saying something against Donald Trump and things that are true. So here's something I really want to put to everybody and here in the comments. What do you think we can do as non-Republicans to push back without creating more problems for ourselves going forward? Because that seems to be the biggest thing. We keep giving the right ammo by just doing and pushing back against them. And then they're trying to criminalize speaking out in protests and arresting people. This is unconfirmed from me, but I had seen a thing on Blue Sky today that some New York lawmakers were arrested for protesting ICE and demanding to see the inside of their facilities. So, if you can arrest state lawmakers for asking questions, and you can kick a guy off TV for telling you how it is, what hope is there for the rest of us? Yes, that is the problem right now. The Dems are they're the they're fascist light, because they still at the leadership level seem to support all of the bad things that Donald Trump wants, just at a lower level. Yeah, there isn't enough pushback from the highest levels. There's some good like grassroots movements within the party, but at the highest levels, the leadership is just it's gone. It's completely and totally useless. Yeah. I mean, and I've even seen a lot of stuff today like, oh, well, you canceled Carano. Yeah, because she said something terrible. And then the company itself decided they didn't want to work with her. And so now you've got a dude that does nothing but say things terrible in Trump that comes after your broadcasting license. Like, man, it's so bizarre to live in these times. Okay, so I guess I've exhausted the whole Jimmy Kimmel and Stephen Colbert thing, and you also have lawsuits into the New York Times for simply, yep, again like Jimmy, just reporting on some stuff that Trump did back during his campaign, and he didn't like hearing the truths about the bad things that he'd done. And what was it? The Wall Street Journal that reported it, and then he sued them for like $30 billion. And then we saw the thing that they told us existed. So I'll be really interested to see where that case ends up. So let's move on to the next highly related thing, and I have a little clip to kick this off.
We're seeing people online who are posting hate speech. They should be shut down. They should be stopped from doing this, and they should know there are consequences for your actions.
Okay, so Pam Bondi this week decided that hate speech is actually a problem. The head of the DOJ is going to now investigate and prosecute hate speech. Well, this ought to be interesting going forward because, again, how do you even gauge what hate speech is? You can't just go against unpopular speech and call it hate speech. Hold on just a second. Hello, Robbie.
Howdy. Good to be here on your political stream. I caught just a little bit of it before I came in, but I've been busy, so if I missed any points you want to bring up later on, just let me know.
I've already talked about all of the Jimmy Kimmel and Stephen Colbert stuff, so if you wanted to just throw anything in there, because I'm just starting on Bondi here.
Okay, well, Pamela Bondi is a worthless person that has done nothing that represents the Department of Justice on any level. She doesn't know the first thing about justice. We've seen how she's broken First Amendment protocol by leaps and bounds. We're not supposed to criticize Trump. We're not allowed to criticize Trump. Fuck her.
Because as this guy has pointed out, he's never done anything bad. We're just full of shit.
Oh yeah. He's never done anything bad. Like when he called for the execution of the Central Park Five. I think I'm remembering that correctly in the 80s. Yeah, I mean, just called for the execution of people without even a trial. Like, yeah, I mean, this person has been a fascist his entire life. Any pandering to the Democrat Party he did was purely politics. Like, that was all bullshit. I hate this fucking man. I hate these cabinet members. She's ridiculous. Like, she hasn't done anything that has shown that she's a trustworthy person, and she has no law experience, right? Generally, right? Like, she's not really.
No, she was the attorney general in Florida before this. I mean, I know that's like
okay, yeah,
Florida,
she has
Florida
no
woman,
law,
so
she has
yeah,
no
right,
law
right.
experience whatsoever. Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah. If you'd like. This will be a tangent, but it will help take some time. Like, I want to tell you some of the reaction I got earlier talking to somebody who works at a nearby store near me. They had the audacity to tell me that they were thankful that after Charlie Kirk's murder, that because of the aftermath of this, that more people are going to be embracing Christianity. Dustin. Now,
Oh, wonderful! I can't wait.
I don't know what Christianity means to you, But when I was growing up with my mother, who died at 8 years old and dragged me to church, even though I didn't want to go there at all, I hate being there with those miserable people, just miserable people. And she she did not teach me that Christianity is what Charlie Kirk, you know, proposes. You know, she did not teach me that Christianity is a thing you use to attack minority people of all stripes. It's a thing you use to blow off racism and completely blow off the basic statistics of what we understand to make up racism in this day and age. You know, I told her, like, do you think Christianity is stoning gays to death in the middle of public, public execution of gays? Is that what you
Not
consider
yet.
Christianity? And I don't think she does. I don't think she does. I think she's, a nice person that doesn't want people killed without due process. But we are at the point where our educations have been so bad through the public schooling system, and the system itself has made it impossible for people to learn, that they have absolutely no understanding of how the Overton window functions, of what our Constitution is about, and the reason why it matters. They have no understanding of what, like, an actual, like, Jesus's actual message is, and the people who are supposed to be delivering it, what they are supposed to be doing. We have created a nation of sycophants who will just bounce from one point to another based on extraneous, like, circumstances. Like, Charlie Kirk is not a Christian. Like, I will never consider him a Christian. He can say, people, his wife can say he's a Christian. His kid's probably going to say he's a Christian in 10 something years and follow in his father's footsteps. I do genuinely feel bad that the kid didn't even actually have to see it. The kid wasn't there, from what I understand. That's all fake bullshit. Like, the idea that the mother and the kid were there when it happened, like, from what I understand, that's fake bullshit. But the kid probably
We're gonna
has
get into
seen.
Charlie here in a little bit, so.
Yeah, well, either way, the kid has probably seen the thing. And it's like, these people are more about persecuting and completely ostracizing any part of the population that they don't think is living up to the standards they are a part of. This is what we've come to as a country. We cannot recognize what our leaders are doing to us. We cannot recognize from the bottom what is actually happening at the top. Too many people, like, one of her arguments was, oh, well, that's just rich people's stuff, and that happens way up there, and it doesn't affect me, and I go about living my life. We live in a free country. The freedoms we have are greater than the freedoms many people in other countries have. And how long does that last, Dustin? How long do our freedoms last if people don't even recognize when they're being violated?
Not long at all, and that's like the first question that I've been trying to get to. Right before you came on, I showed the recent clip
Okay.
of her on Katie Miller's podcast, where she said that the DOJ is going to start going after hate speech. So my first big question, what will be considered hate speech? Because
Yeah.
traditionally that's been one of the hardest things you can try to pin down in a court of law.
Yeah. Yeah. I'd like to apologize if my setup isn't exactly regal. I didn't have a lot of time to set up. But yeah, I wonder, like, we've already seen what they do with DEI now. The way they've completely stripped Black Americans, Japanese Americans of their history in our books. They're trying to strip away the internment camps of World War II, the cost of those internment camps. They took down, um, the Tuskegee Airmen, like memorial. They targeted that memorial and said it fell in their anti DEI policies, and that's horseshit. Those people fought and died for this country in World War II against fascists. There was never any reason to look at that as, like, DEI propaganda. That's the that's an actual thing that fucking happened in our country. Like, those people fought for our countries. And for them to be stripping that away is severe, severe offense against our history. It's an offense against our basic sense of the people who helped our country, become what it is. Admittedly, I don't, the phrasing of that doesn't sound great, but the post World War II era, they helped us become the post World War II era that we think about in our history books, that we think about in our media. So we're already seeing like how bad this is. I mean, Trump and his team, when they came into office, they said there is no more law of the land above the presidency. This has never been how our country works. Ever. We have never worked our country in any way like this. We have never allowed the president to just create laws out of thin air based on whatever he likes to do. As far as I can remember, I don't even think the way they've implemented tariffs and stuff has been the same. I don't think we've actually allowed the president to implement tariffs
Never
in the
to
same
this
way.
degree.
Yeah.
It's always been a power
Yeah.
of Congress that they've kind of
Sure.
ceded for like basic contingencies, so that as like a head of state, he can go
Yeah.
and talk to other rulers and
Right.
like make deals, and then they'll come and back him up later. But Trump is just
Sure.
like using this as a blanket power and like an everyday thing that he can just use as an arsenal in his quill.
Right, right, and that's never been done. The president has never had that level of control, and Congress has never allowed that level of control to go unremarked upon, to just act like it's normal. I mean, this is an extreme fascist takeover in ways people do not understand. A few months back, I had to tell a guy at my work, there is nothing that Biden has done up to this point that represents the fascist takeover this is. I didn't like Biden. I thought he was an old fogey that didn't need to be there, the same as Trump. Fucking asshole. We were living better under him. His economic policies were working. The post-COVID turnaround he was able to make after a year or so, that was genuinely beneficial for us. Oh my word. Oh, okay. So apparently I'm stupid because I don't think that Charlie is a Christian, even though he does everything that Jesus told you not to do as a Christian. You can't follow you can't follow Jesus's word and then do what Charlie did as a person. I will not back down from that statement. The Christianity I was taught growing up does not excuse Charlie Kirk for his actions. And if
No,
you
I
are a
just
Christian out
ignore
there,
that guy though.
yeah, I am going to. Yeah. Yeah. But as far as I'm concerned, these people are just fascists. They hide behind Christianity the same way the Nazis did. The Nazis used
True.
Christianity as a means of covering up the fact that they are just craven monsters that only want control. Now, Dustin, I would like to thank you for inviting me onto your stream, and I know you appreciate me being here because in America right now, we're seeing the clamping down of free speech. And I think a majority of us are worried about losing our jobs over saying the wrong thing. I think a majority of us are worried about in a way that it has never been before. Because all the stuff we were seeing about cancel culture, those people that were getting canceled generally deserved it. A lot of the people that got canceled generally deserved to lose their jobs for being shitty people that said terrible things and did terrible things online. A good portion of those people were craven, ridiculous racists that probably presented problems to the public that that if they hadn't like already created a problem in their communities, they were just going to create more anyways. It's a level of schadenfreude to them that shouldn't be. But what's happening now is people are stating basic facts about the world they live in, about what actual reporters are doing, not sycophants, actual reporters, actual reporters who are questioning what is going to go along. Yes, Clarence, how long before they come after non-FCC regulated
Maybe not
speech?
long, because I can't remember if it was Lindsey Graham or it was some Republican politician this week that was like, well, we've got to revoke Rule 230 or whatever it is that allows media companies online like YouTube or Facebook to not get in trouble for what people say on their platforms. So if they take away this, then YouTube can get in trouble because I say that Trump is a terrible person and the worst president that we've ever had. It may be factual, in my opinion, but they can come after us.
I mean, his jobs numbers, that should be a clincher to anyone at all that has any sense about like what he represents for our company. I mean, in our country, in what, over half a year. It's been it's been 10 months. It's been 10 months. The economy is in the toilet. We have we haven't had the amount of people without jobs be greater than the people, be greater than the available jobs there in, years. How many years has it been since that's happened? I haven't been able to actually look that up and put a number to that, but it has been years since that genuinely happened. Like, this is a shocking turn. A shocking turn. I don't understand why anyone could defend him on any level. It feels absolutely egregious. I mean, every campaign promise he made has not only been broken, it has been broken to a degree that should lead to extreme revolt from
Well,
anyone that
except all
valued
of the
his
stuff
word.
that he told us that he was going to do as a
Oh yeah.
fascism, like
Oh yeah. But I
deport
mean,
massive numbers of people the worst
right.
ways possible.
Right, but when he was going on to like other platforms, when he was engaging in debates that were not on his own platforms, he was saying that he's going to turn this terrible economy around. He was saying that he's going to lower all the food prices. He's going to lower gas prices. Like a month ago, my dad remarked how like gas had shot up over, I think, $1.50 within
It's
2 days or so.
$1.85. You're lying if you say any other number.
Of course, yeah. I mean, that's nothing but truth from these people. Yeah, it's shocking to me. It's shocking to me how many people are just sitting back and taking it. They think we're going to be able to get past this. We're going to be able to survive past this. I have gone out of my way to become friendlier with a Democratic representative in town who runs a community center of sorts that is kind of the home of our LGBTQ association in town. I mean, I live in a very racist Bible thumper town. If I promise people, do not come to Indiana. It is nothing but bad. I mean, whatever good people are here, they are shockingly dumb. Like, sometimes, like, it is shocking the conversations I have with people. Like, just like earlier when I was talking to that woman about Charlie Kirk. Like, there's no there's no excuse for any of this stuff happening. I mean, they're in Corridon, about a half an hour away from here. Thousands of people turned up for a Charlie Kirk memorial. Now, I mean,
That's the thing
this
I
is like
really don't understand is this, like,
thousands.
the
Did
people
these
that are
people know
turning up for
him?
this guy, most of them probably only had a tangential idea that he existed.
I mean, he
And they're just
harassed
told, like,
people
oh,
in
he's
college
he's
campuses.
like you. And yeah, like, my big thing is nobody deserves to die for their political speech, but not everybody deserves to be mourned. And if you spend most of your life just spewing hate, you're probably one of the ones that does not deserve to be mourned.
I don't even like this
I don't
guy.
understand it.
I don't even like this guy. I just want to say I
let's-
don't even like this guy, but his killing was brutal, horrific. Like, I don't think that's good. I don't think we should be just assassinating random individuals in the middle of broad daylight. Like, the problems that
No,
creates are not permitted in a free and democratic society. Like, this is fucked up. I think a lot of people think I'm being hard. It's like, no, I don't want to mourn this guy. I'll recognize that the things he did, kind of put him in an area where something like that might have happened anyways, but I also don't want to see that fucking happen. And I and this is another thing too. All the Second Amendment people have turned hightail and they're just sniffing their own asses now. Somebody shared a thing about how, oh, they're taking the quote about the children being necessary sacrifices for our 2A rights out of context. And I read the whole context for that,
it's
okay?
not better. It's not any better.
Bullshit. Absolute bullshit. All of those things he talks about have counter arguments that are better than what he proposes. There is no reason anybody has to die like this, nor give up their basic gun rights. We can more than put caps on what weapons manufacturers are allowed to sell all the fucking time.
I'll
The
be honest. I
got
don't think it matters in this country when you already
yeah. I don't
have
think it matters either. Yeah, but
this hundreds
I
of millions many guns. You can never put a stop to it by even really capping guns. I think all
I
you
mean
can
the
do
way
is
they
maybe cap ammo buying, but
the way they go well, the way they are going after pornography, a relatively like small thing compared to gun deaths, is egregious too, because that's all about
that is a whole other
anti-LGBTQ
thing.
censorship. Yeah,
All right, well, I want to pull it back to Pam Bondi here. I do have a whole thing to talk about Charlie Kirk, but we may have already exhausted some of it. So
sure.
if Bondi's cracking down on hate speech and she claims it's going to be across the aisle, will every host at Fox News lose their job by the end of the year?
Well, no, because they don't have the term hate speech the way we previously thought of that. They're going to reclassify the term hate speech as a thing that targets white Americans, as a thing that targets Christian Americans, as a thing that targets Republicans, conservatives of all kind. That's what hate speech is going to become, because conservatives have considered hate speech an Orwellian dictate against them. They have always considered it Orwellian, when in fact it isn't Orwellian at all. It's something to help them, it's something to keep them from being egregious in our workspaces and our public life to a degree that is upsetting and traumatic. Because our current previous like dictates for what hate speech was anti-racism. It was, the point of it was to fight racist like catcalling and other things like that in our workplaces and in our political spectrum. And now they're going to reclassify hate speech as a thing like, oh, you called him a white cracker. You're committing hate speech, which you're committing hate speech against the minority of white people, which is part of the narrative they've been trying to spin. That white people are actually the real minority in this country, and that they don't have the power over this country they used to have, which is bullshit. It's complete bullshit. These people run our country now. The majority of people in Trump's cabinet are white. The majority of people who follow Donald Trump are white. Oh, yeah. Very, very classy, you liberal cucks. I mean, you work hard on that one? No, I bet you got to bed about 2:30. I'm tired of these fucking idiots that have no understanding of what hate speech actually is, what it actually represents. You know, you know why we don't say the N word? Because it's egregiously offensive. It's
They
egregiously
do.
offensive.
And
Like,
here's
they
the thing,
do, yes, because they don't consider it egregiously offensive. It's
well,
just another weapon for them.
but they know it's hate speech, and here's how I know that they know. You missed the opening intro video that I did, where I put up how Matt Walsh and Crowder and whoever else are all mad at her because they're gonna she might come after their speech because pretty much all of their speech is hate speech. So they're well aware of what hate speech is and what it means to them. It means dollars to them.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I mean they've weaponized hate speech in a way that they've been trying to perfect for years, and now that Trump is in office, they have their perfect opportunity to rewrite the meaning of hate speech against liberal sources. This is egregious in a way that is like done. Like we've always had a completely fascistic white element that has controlled our government at the very top, controlled our media sources at the very top most of the time. Such a feminine and people of color presences, they do not have the same power in our studio systems, throughout our entertainment media, in our political spectrums. They just do not have the same power. They never have. And it's a basic fact. Like it's fucking stupid to argue that crap.
So let's turn this around. Will this empower a Democrat administration in the future to go after right-wing speech?
I mean, the sources they've been trying to do, who have been trying to do that in lots of ways, I'm not sure if it will or not. Because I think the worries, like most of us people who are independent on the left of the aisle, we just think that this is going to, like, they're going to leave the weapons that the Trump administration, you know, has left behind when they leave, and they're going to use it against the populace again, because they've shown themselves to be fascistic, in their own ways. I mean, Gavin Newsom, he'll get rid of the homeless. He don't give a fuck. He don't care about the homeless. He'll wipe them right off the street, and you'll never see them again. He'll
Yeah,
destroy. He'll allow
he's
cops to destroy their possessions.
Gavin Newsom is only better than Trump in the way that he trolls him online.
I
Other
think
than
so.
that,
Sometimes
not a
I think
great
so.
dude at
Yeah.
all.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, what we've seen from the people, we have a mutual friend who lives in California, and their Democratic representatives have allowed people to be carried off by ICE. They didn't care. They didn't do anything to stop ICE. So I, I think there's a likelihood that I also kind of wonder. I kind of wonder if they're going to peel back a little bit, maybe just to earn the people's trust a bit better on a certain level. Because I think most of the people below the higher echelons of the Democrat Party realize that people don't trust the Democrat Party overall. They don't
No.
trust the second arm of the military industrial complex. They especially don't trust them after the Democrat Party has been attempting to limit on the ballot other third party, political movements. They have sued to make it to where communists and other types of leftists cannot identify and register as political candidates throughout the country. They've shown that they want to keep a certain level of political power that pushes out other competition.
It'll be really interesting to see how this New York City mayoral race turns out and whether Zoran Mandani actually takes the mayorship.
He
Because
seems
there's
to be
also
quite popular.
yeah, and I've got and granted this is next year, so it's like it's so far out, it almost doesn't matter. But there's a guy, and he's been interviewed by a lot of the big, big YouTube organizations as a challenger to Susan Collins in the Senate. His name's Graham Platter. The Democratic leadership does not want him because he's a loose cannon, and he just wants to take care of people. Why
Yeah.
is this so hard? The Democrats, when Kamala lost, they tried to blame it on us, the voters, and well, you just didn't get her message. She didn't get her message out there. No, we got her message. That wasn't the problem. It's that half her message was the same as Trump's. You tried to lean so far into getting right-wing votes that you were never going to get, that we end up
Yeah.
losing the plot, and now we're in fascist hell.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, some of my relatives, when I tried to talk to them about Kamala, they were, I mean, they were so scared. They were so worried, like she was going to bring in a communist takeover that would absolutely, like, that would take people's homes and get rid of them. When the most she probably would have done was like force people who had an excessive amount of land to sell a little bit of it off. That's probably the extent such a thing would have taken. She was a prosecutor before she ran. Her whole
Right.
thing was about prosecuting people and getting people trapped into our massive slavery empire of a private prison industry. She was nothing interesting. She would have presented nothing like going forward on a progressive level that would have been good for us as a whole. She would have been
I
just
mean,
another
it would
like
be better off
lazy
than we are
Democrat.
literally
We
today,
we'd be
but
better off than we are today, of course. Like I'm not arguing that on any level, but
right,
the
but
fact of the matter
it's
is
not where we should be. It's not where we
it
should
wouldn't have helped us move forward with progressive goalposts that actually matter, is what I'm saying.
Right. I just want to say to Buzzin in Canada, this is the first time I've ever done this. This is a Star Trek channel. I just renamed it to my name today, and away from a Trek meme or away from a Trek name. We'll still be doing a lot of Star Trek, but yeah, I might come back and do more of this style of podcasting. I don't have a name for this. We can just call it a political podcast at this point. Yeah, I might very well do some more and line up some other people to get in on this. Okay,
I
I think we've spent enough time on this. Let's circle back to Charlie Kirk. And first of all, let's talk a little bit about what we actually know about the shooter that is confirmed and isn't just wild speculation out in the ether. And that's been the absolute biggest problem with this case. This is the first case that I have ever been absolutely guilty of passing judgment on information that I saw before all the facts have come out. And I'm not going to speculate too much on a lot of things around it because there's still a lot of facts that we don't know. At this point, we know that the shooter was a 22-year-old male from Utah, grew up in a right-wing family, moved a little bit left. There's still some ambiguity as to whether they were in love with their roommate and whether their roommate's trans. And I mean, of course, the roommate being trans is the most important question we have to answer in this thing. It's not why he did it, it's if the roommate was trans. Because as long as the roommate's trans, then we can demonize a whole class of people that had nothing to do with the shooting. So yeah, that's mostly all we know. We know that the shooter got taken into custody by their father because somebody saw him on the news and pointed out, like, oh, hey, isn't that Tyler? It was originally reported that the father was a sheriff, which is not true. It was a family friend that worked for the sheriff's office that brought him in with the family. So yeah. First question, why does it matter if the roommate's trans?
Well, because they want to set up a massive anti-trans campaign based on this. They want to create Reichstag type moments. They are
No.
Nazis. They have been studying the Nazi playbook. That's the whole reason it matters if the roommate's trans, because then they can say, yeah, this is more radical trans ideology converting our children into terrorists. They want to label trans people as, not just, abominations in the public eye. They want to be able to they want to be able to label all left-wing people who sympathize with trans people as terrorists as well, which is why they're going after Antifa as a terrorist organization when it's not really even a fucking organization. It's just being anti-fascist.
We gotta follow that money, man.
I mean, where does the money come from? Because most of the anti-fascist people I know, they don't have a fucking dollar in this where I live. They're some of the poorest of the poor. Like I really don't see it like in yeah, all this stuff about the roommate being trans is just nothing. Like it's just a means for them to create anti-trans panic, to solidify the anti-trans panic they've been developing through the propaganda of children's sports being affected by trans populaces, which the trans populaces are so small that they don't matter. The trans populaces are going through a thing that, okay, when a regular when a guy decides that he's trans and he wants to transition fully over to being a female, there's a lot of things that happen to your body. I am not trans. I promise I will try to speak respectfully, but I only know of that culture through others and trans people in my life. So if I stumble here and there just a little bit, but from what I understand, when you start the process, you are weakening your body in a lot of levels. You have to put your body through a certain amount of weakening, to go from like a regular, to go from, confirmed at birth as male to a trans woman, which, what I'm trying to say is those people are not getting an advantage in sports, okay? Those people are hurting themselves in a certain manner. I don't want to say hurting. They're trying to do something better for themselves, but they have to go through a transformative process in their body that doesn't necessarily make them stronger. Like it doesn't give them an advantage in the way these transphobes want you to believe. They don't they don't gain anything better by transitioning to becoming a woman and enjoy participating in female sports. Like they don't have an advantage there. They just don't.
All right, let's so here's the thing that is still kind of up in the air, and to my amazement, it's like the far right wing that should want this to be a closed deal that's also calling this out, along with a lot of people. Do you think the released text messages are real? The first time I saw it was on like some far right account, and I was like, "Oh, you guys are just making stuff up again." And then I see it in like mainstream news. It's like, "Oh, this is real. This is a real conversation between two people." And then one of the first memes I saw by it was somebody that used to write for Lifetime movies and was like, "This is cheesier than anything I ever wrote, and I used to write Lifetime movies." I'm not going to go down the conspiracy rabbit hole and say, "Oh, those are definitely fake." But man, they are weird. That's what I'm going to say about them.
Well, here's what I think. I think they're AI. The way they are put together, there have been people coming out that have put it through AI programs, and it like for when you put it through there, it comes out as like 75% or 80% accurate as being AI generated. We have a entire regime dedicated to pushing AI so they can create propaganda that eludes people into thinking the way they want them to. I personally have no belief they are real. I personally have no belief that those people are releasing such things in good faith to prove their points. I think they're nonsense. I don't. I mean, I don't know what you want me to think. Like in the big wide world, if you put these things through AI programs to detect the possibility of AI, they come back pretty accurate for AI, and then you call a duck a duck. Like
And then, as we can see here, we've got, the same people that are like, "Oh, you can't, don't perpetuate violence," and then like low key are like, "Yeah, violence is coming though." Yeah, okay, that's nice. And that's what I'm
Buzz
worried
in
about. What we
Canada.
talked about earlier when I'm not sure if Robbie was on, where it's like, "Oh, we need to worry about voting." No, we need to worry about getting through the winter.
Yes. Buzz in Canada, thank you for pointing out there are female to male trans athletes out there that have been dealing with bigotry. I'm sorry I did not capture the entire experience of that. I think we're all on the same side politically. I'm pretty sure no one thinks I'm trying to talk in bad faith about anything. I mean, they're still going through a certain amount
You're just
of
pointing out
changing in their
what the
body.
actually gets called out and what is actually
Yeah.
like the problem. according to the right wing.
Yeah.
I love how all these like, and I've put most of them in a timeout. These people on the left that are like, "Oh, you leftists, have you heard any of us talk about how like we're also not really Democrats? We're just calling out the crap on the right. You
The
don't
only
have to be a
goddamn reason-
Democrat or a leftist. I'm a libertarian, for God's sakes. That's why I'm here, because I cannot stand the thought of the government coming after people. And here's just like it was Jimmy Kimmel that got me going today. And as much as I don't really like Reagan, how can anybody that's like a hardcore righty that probably also loves Reagan ignore this?
The 9 most terrifying words in the English language are, "I'm from the government and I'm here to help."
Well, I don't fully lean into that. I think every once in a while the government actually has a worthwhile thing to do, and he's just generalizing. We're doing objectively like the worst things that the government can come in to help by prosecuting hate speech and getting people pushed out of their jobs and threatening broadcast licenses. So like how did we go from Ronald Reagan, which is like just a step down on the fascist scale from where we are, to where we are? Like, wow.
It's a full-on breakdown of our sense of how our institutions function. I came across a quote, and I don't remember who it was, but the quote is about how, like, in order for a constitution to be effective, your populace has to recognize it as something close to like a religious text for them almost. You know, it has to be a way of life. It has to be something they all recognize together as having, you know, certain limits and stuff. You know, your constitution is put together because we have human rights that are inalienable. They were always there, but we solidify them by creating a constitution. And the people who've been calling themselves constitutionalists have shown that they never read the document. You know, they never figured out what the Constitution said or how it functions, because if they had, they wouldn't have been voting Trump. They wouldn't have been voting for the complete annihilation of the fine line. You know, they wouldn't be cheering on drug dealers, I say this in quotes, on international waters getting executed without any trial whatsoever, with no evidence other than like a little bit of like heroin, I think, has been found at the most. Like maybe like one guy just had a few grams of it in his system at the most, like, or maybe there was some like in the water. Like they
haven't followed
proven,
up on that one.
Ah, man, from what I've seen, they haven't done a damn thing to prove that any of this is real. Like, they haven't done a damn thing to prove their just cause. Like, they are just taking international waters as a means of being able to extrajudicially kill someone, you know, kill groups of people.
I'm all
under
for
nothing.
stopping the drug trade, but then you board the friggin' boat. How often do we do this with our Coast Guard, Navy, and you don't just bomb them out of nowhere? But that is a whole different conversation. We're coming up here
sorry, I just wanted to mention, you know, a few months back, they let a signal chat leak to the Atlantic talking about bombing the Houthis without any congressional input at all. Like, they're just going to town. And it doesn't really matter because all those people in Congress are generally sycophants for Trump. And the ones who aren't don't really have any power, will probably be arrested if they attempt to do anything. Earlier today, 11 representatives were arrested while trying to get into an ICE detention facility and figure out what the hell was going on.
Yeah, I reported on that before you came in.
Yeah. Oh, okay, good. Good. Yeah.
So yeah, we're coming up on an hour. I've got 2 big questions, and the last one in the Charlie Kirk shooting series. What if we find out that the shooter was neither a groyper, and for all of you that don't know, that is like the far, 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 far right, nor Antifa? What if this was just a disaffective kid with a lot of anger? What does that mean? Because like one of the big things, like I was saying, like I got taken by some of the early narrative. And I usually wait for the facts. And so, what if it comes out that this is just because both sides want this kid to be something that he's not so far. The right want him to be far left Antifa, and the left want him to be a far right Groiper. And the facts so far, there's still a lot to come out, seem to be showing that he was kind of in the middle of all of that. Loved the hunting and the fishing and the guns, and also the gay stuff and the rights of people.
I mean, I don't think it matters one way or the other. This kid is going to be a political tool either way. This kid is going to be a political tool for the right wing, whether like they don't care about facts. They've shown this whole time they don't care about facts. So it doesn't matter what the reality of this kid is. They're going to do everything they can to make it fit their narrative on some level. This is all about making like all the stuff we're seeing with Arbrigo Garcia Kilmer, I think is how you pronounce his name. I haven't looked at the case, but in a second. But like all the stuff we're seeing with them is that they have no genuine evidence. All the witnesses they brought in to testify against him have a they have a benefit for testifying against him at every level. If they testify against him, they'll be given reprisals of whatever they're being charged with under this administration. They have every benefit to testify against him. So right now, facts don't matter about this kid, about this shooter. Like it just doesn't fucking matter anymore. This guy is going to be a political tool until the very bloody end.
No, that seems to be exactly it. There's no good answer to this question because it seems like most killings, even if you lean one way or another politically, politics doesn't seem to enter into it for a lot of these high profile killings that we've seen in the last few years. It's disaffected people that want to make a name for themselves. And boy, if this kid ain't going to do that. He has definitely succeeded at what he probably wanted. We will hopefully find out his motivations, but he's not cooperating, and we'll see what happens before they, put him before a firing squad. Utah is one of the only, they may be the only state left where you can get the firing squad.
Buzz in Canada, I would like to say I am sorry that I cannot encompass the totality of anti-trans propaganda this administration has put out. Like, is just massive. Like, it is more than sports. Like, I'm very sorry if it seems like I'm being narrow in my definitions. I promise, I don't underestimate the problems that have come out from this over the past few years. Like it's a huge thing that I mean, even as much as I understand about it, there are still layers to it that I can't express in our small stream.
So what Alex just brought up brings me to my very last over-encompassing question. Where do we go from here? And is the United States that we once knew gone? Yeah, I know. I might as well have just asked you a really hard rocket science question because answering it's about the same.
I mean, I could spend an hour here, like going through little puzzle pieces. Um, I guess it really depends on how heartily the populace embraces ICE, which I don't think it is. I don't think it's seeing benefits from ICE. They can't get people to sign up for ICE in the way they thought they would. They've had to break down the cap on ICE so they can allow people who are, like just turning 18, like, the youngest of the youngest with no experience, and to people who are like older, people who are past 40, in their 50s, people who are far past their prime on a military level. So what we're going to see, and what we're already seeing, is that we have a bunch of untrained vigilantes who don't know what the hell they're doing, being thrust into a incredibly tempestuous situation and not handling it in any fucking way. They're just bounty hunters. They are not like actual military people. They don't function the way our military is supposed to. On top of that, the actual military being deployed against the populace, I don't think that's creating a lot of love. I mean, I think a lot of the writer leaning centrists are starting to realize like this is bullshit. I think I think a lot of the people who consider themselves centrists are starting to realize that they've waved off a lot of things that they really
I'm
shouldn't have.
there. I'm
Yeah.
there.
Okay, friend. I'm glad you recognize it. You know, and look, friend, libertarian has its the term libertarian has its roots in anarchism. Like these are things that started in lefty circles that got co-opted by the right wing too. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. That's even I will admit the problem with libertarianism is that there are too many brands of it. I happen to follow the Andrew Heaton, God, what's his name? Magician, Penn Teller.
The Incredible Jonathan.
No, Penn Jillette, because he's been like
Oh,
a
okay.
libertarian darling for a while. But like these are people that will also still be like, but vaccines are good, and sometimes it's good to keep the government functioning because most
Yeah.
libertarians are just like, I don't want to pay taxes, and and guns, great. Like I
I
can
don't.
get behind your Second Amendment rights, but we do need a government to function, and there's a reason that we're the greatest country on earth, and it's not because we have no government at all. Do I think we can downsize some of it smartly and not just take the Doge approach and just cut people that we don't understand what their job is? Yeah, I think we can.
Okay,
But that
Doge
takes
is
nuance
another.
and time.
Yeah. I want to say that Doge is another piece of this bad puzzle. I mean, Doge was
No.
never about savings. Doge was about crippling our infrastructure from the very like inside of the house. You know, they wanted to cripple our privacy from the inside of the house. That's what Doge is about. They are costing American taxpayers more money than they have even been able to moderately
Correct.
justify, you know? Like we've seen their justifications fall apart time after time again to the point that federal courts have actually said like, yeah, we need you to reinstate these programs, which they weren't going to. That was all show, you know. That's all from the amount of public backlash, you know. The best thing you can do is backlash. The best thing we can do as a populace is continue our backlash, I guess. There are there are going to be casualties in that. I don't like that. It doesn't make me feel good. This I don't want to speak about like going out and doing the necessary work as a concerned citizen in battleistic terms. I just but I don't see how else we're going to create enough furor to really knock down the Fuhrer. You know what I'm saying? Like we've seen how they back the fuck off when we stand up against them. Like our they can't even charge that one guy who threw a sandwich with a felony. You know, they can't even say that he did anything actually wrong. Like and they still followed
Yeah, they
him
acquitted him.
to his fucking house. Yeah.
Yeah, they arrested him, and then they went and arrested him again for really no good reason.
They can't charge him. They can't get anything on him. Like he did nothing. Like he was no threat to them. He told them what they did was unconstitutional and threw a sandwich. They have guns. You know what? They may not even have guns because from what I understand, a lot of the majority of those soldiers in D.C. weren't even really armed, if I'm not mistaken. I think I read that
Because it
somewhere. Like,
comes down to laws governing like how the National Guard can serve as police. Um,
okay. So
so
when they
yeah.
get past the National Guard, like when they actually go into using active military that is not supposed to be part of the Guard, then I guess that's really where we need to see that's really where we need to think about like the actual threat of being, you know, taken in the middle of the night coming from. You know what I'm saying? Because right now, I don't think the National Guard is being used to just abduct people in the middle of the night from their homes. That's ICE's job. But eventually, ICE will not be staffed enough to deal with that shit. And they are going to bring in actual soldiers who drink the Kool-Aid wholeheartedly. And that's when we're going to see the fight that will, justify them as a Nazi regime even more than now. Like,
Yeah, so
I mean, yeah,
I'm just gonna answer my questions here quick because I don't
yeah.
have good answers here. Where do we go from here? I don't know, balls in Republicans' court because like there's literally nothing that the Democrats are either they're not doing anything, they're probably not going to do anything. And I guess it's all up to the right wing's will to wage war. I mean, we've got a Department of War now, so we will find out if they really want to turn that on the American people or if that's just been a ploy. Is the United States, we know it, gone? Well, if it keeps going where people are getting fired from a private job because the government came in and told their employers, you've got to fire this guy because he said something that our dear leader didn't like, then it's gone. It's maybe it's already gone.
I mean,
I don't know.
I
don't think it's
I'm kind of out. Yeah,
I don't think
I
it's
just want to say,
unsalvageable at this point,
yeah.
but we are at a breaking point.
Part of the reason why I feel confident in being on a stream with you about this in this political time is because I'm a fucking loser who makes no goddamn money and nobody cares about me. You know, I got my friends who care about me. You know, I've got confidants in the podcast community, artistic communities, but I'm not like a teacher at a respected institution like Harvard or something like that. They don't give a fuck about me. You know, I'm not on the public stage in the way a teacher at Harvard or Yale or some other big, supposedly pro-democratic school is. You know, they're not targeting people like me necessarily yet. You know, they're targeting intellectuals and people that are so public about being intellectual that they've based their whole career on it. Yeah, Dream and Base here says, out here in a red state, we got the National Guard sent here, and I've seen less homeless people, and that's scary. It should be scary. Where the hell did those homeless people go? They didn't jail all of them. Or what are we going to find out in the next few years about how they handled those homeless people? We're seeing how they handled the immigrants. Yep.
Yeah, I don't know. There's no good answers. But we're gonna wrap up here, and I'm going to try and leave this on a positive message. I pray for unity, but I'm hedging my bets because I honestly don't know where everything is going in the not too distant future. I hope we as a country can figure this out and pull ourselves out of this tailspin. But I don't know. I have no idea where things go from here, but I wish everyone well. Stay safe out there. Robbie, I'd like to thank you for joining me tonight. And I'd like to thank all of you for tuning in. This is the first time we tried something like this. Maybe we'll come back and do it again on a semi-regular basis. But until we see you again, I'm still going to leave you with a live long and prosper.